we have eclipse season. I have done many classes on eclipses before. I definitely recommend going back to September. I did a blog post on this and I have a class on my YouTube channel talking about what the eclipses are. So if you're like, I always hear this term, I don't understand this, I researched it, I looked it up. So what's a solar eclipse? What's a lunar eclipse? Like, what does that literally mean that's happening in the sky? I talk about that. And I also was talking at the end about this eclipse series. So we are currently in a Virgo Pisces eclipse series, North Node Pisces, South Node Virgo. The eclipses are always where the lunar nodes, North Node, South Node, are in sister signs. They're directly across from each other in the zodiac. However, starting this month on February 17th, just a short time from now, we're having an out of sign eclipse. And not just that, this is the first of many. This happens the rest of the series. So what we start to have is we have our Pisces Virgo eclipse series. Tra-la-la-la. What we're supposed to have is twice a year we have Virgo Pisces, Virgo Pisces. That's not happening. That happened one time, September. The rest of its run, we have the beginning of the next series, which is Aquarius and Leo, and they converge starting right here. So now what happens is each eclipse season, we have one from one series and one from the other happening over and over and over again. And this continues until both of them conclude, essentially. And when we get into the Cancer Capricorn series, they get some time alone. They actually like have a normal eclipse season and series and cycle. We do not have that right now. We also started experiencing this for the last one. So we had Libra Aries, and we started to have like Pisces pop in there and Virgo pop in there. So theirs was a little bit disrupted. This is fully disrupted. So pretty much the entire time, it's like we're not having the pairing except for that one time, which was in September 2025. So you can consider simultaneous cycles beginning now. So solar eclipse, 28 degrees of Aquarius. Now, might you ask, why is it happening so late in the sign? I thought it was just starting. And that's because, and you'll see this when you look at your chart, the nodes of the moon, they're not literal. Like it's not something we can see. These are a calculation. I'll talk about that more in the video. But they're always retrograde. So they start at the end of a sign and they move backwards. So we know that the next series is going to be the signs after that, and the signs after that, and the signs after that. So we're not moving forward through the zodiac. We're moving in reverse. So this solar eclipse was supposed to be in Pisces and an early degree of Pisces, and instead it's at a late degree of Aquarius. So that's what's going on here. So this is happening February 17th, 7:13 a.m. Eastern Time. Eclipses, astrologically, are a beginning and ending portal. For a North Node eclipse, as is this one, it means that we are drawn towards working on the high vibrational energy of that sign. So we want to sit and think about, what does Aquarius mean? What are the most optimal traits for Aquarius when we have this series, which again is overlapping with our Virgo Pisces? We're supposed to be working on the high vibrational side of Pisces. JK, we're going to be working on Aquarius now too. So we're moving towards the Piscean traits, and now we're working towards the Aquarian traits as well. And then the same thing is the opposite on the other side. Shedding what's dysfunctional about Virgo, shedding what's dysfunctional about Leo. But that will be future classes. So, Aquarius is the fixed air sign. It is an innovator. It is tech savvy. It's humanitarian. So it's thinking about the people, but it is Saturn ruled. So it's also serious. It's not warm and fuzzy thinking about people. It's like, we need to make the systems work for everybody. We need power to be distributed across the people. If any of this sounds familiar, it's because we've been talking about Pluto in Aquarius for quite a while. So this type of narrative has been ongoing in the collective because of that 20-year transit. So we're thinking about collective action ultimately. So we have the Pluto energy, which is activating Aquarius for decades worth of time. For this eclipse series, it's also getting activated. It's getting activated again, but not about the destruction, rebirth side. That's the work of Pluto. For the North Node, it's like, how can we lean into those really high quality supportive traits? That's what we're focusing on as a collective. So we may start seeing some of that being reinforced and popping up, and then also within ourselves. So we can just put that hat on, thinking about, how can I be more Aquarian in a way that is supporting me in my life and my development? Even if you have nothing in Aquarius in your chart, we're leaning into that energy. When we talk about these eclipse portals, we're saying it's around a month period of time, but then we have the eclipse series, which is usually like a year and a half worth of time, sometimes longer. And so it's not just contained, like the peaks are the month. So we have a peak, which is the day, which is on top of a peak, that's the month. And then below that, we have 6 months, which is like between the Aquarius and then the Leo eclipse. So then those tie to each other, those relate to each other. And then you extend out and go, and then the whole series. So it's like a peak on a peak on a peak on a peak. So that greatest intensity is like in that moment, but it's all actually extending over a longer period of time. And that's why it's more about like the journey of like, you're learning these lessons over and over again. You are being shown opportunities to release or lean out of, step away from. And it's more that they feel like a larger theme in life. So yeah, if you're feeling it building, it's like, well, one, we're not that far away from it. So it makes a lot of sense. And I did talk about that in my week ahead forecast a bit, that people might start really feeling that by the end of the week, as in like, Sunday or Monday or something, when we're like more officially in the eclipse portal. But we're still there. We're sitting in all of this energy of this North Node and South Node, bouncing back and forth between 2 different signs, 4 signs total. It's activating a lot of areas in your chart, a lot of things that we are simultaneously working on and juggling. And oftentimes in the eclipse series, we will see those beginnings and endings manifesting. So we are not manifesting, but they are presenting themselves. So what's common, and it could be around the actual day, the peak, it could be in the month, it could be across the 6 months, it could be the whole cycle, but you could have beginnings and endings. For my podcast, we did a 2026 forecast episode where I talked about the 4 eclipses in 2026 already. That's been out for a couple months now. So you can listen and get an overview. So I talk about like the high level of each of them, like dates and times, the energy of it. I also talked about like self-care practices, things that you could do, that you could think about for each of those. So I'm not going to repeat that here, but if you would like that info, you can listen to that episode. If you just want to zero in and listen to that section on the upcoming eclipse, you can. So you could listen to both of the, in this case, winter and northern hemisphere. You can listen to both of the winter ones. If you want to save the other ones for later, you can always come back to it, or you could listen to the whole year. But yeah, I also in that talk about, so I contextualize like with my chart and Christine, my co-host chart. So you'll hear me kind of modeling, oh, so this is what we might be thinking about or considering, and what might be coming up for us and what we could be working on. So those are just more in-depth examples. Number one reminder for eclipses, it's beginning and ending energy, which means that no manifesting. No manifesting. If you have a manifestation practice with the moon specifically, Table it. Not now. Not now. We want to wait until the next new moon outside of the eclipse season, which is not going to be for a little bit. So for now, there's going to be a lot that comes up, and we do talk about this in the podcast. We talked about it in season 1. We talked about it in season 2, and we talked about it a little bit in that forecast episode, especially for people like myself who are intuitive. These eclipse seasons kick up a lot of energy. And remember how we've been talking this whole time about how we have Mercury retrograde going on top of it and all this? Eclipses always mess with my dreams, mess with my sleep. So I'll like be waking up or like, not sleeping through the night or having incredibly vivid dreams or having no dreams. And then I feel weird. It can mess with just kind of your general energy levels and how you're operating. This could be regardless of where it's happening within your chart. But of course, as we'll talk about, you do want to look at, in this case, Aquarius. Later, we'll talk about the next one, Virgo. And you'll want to see where that is happening and where that energy impact is bursting from. But in general, that whole eclipse season, when I say season, it's the lead up to the first eclipse. Then we have like a week, then we have the second eclipse, and then we have the wind down. So that's like easily a month period of time where you may just feel completely out of whack. And that is separate from the entirely overlapping Mercury retrograde, all of the other transits that are happening, Saturn changing signs. So this is exactly why you will hear astrologers like myself who have been talking about this for a long time. Buckle up, because Q1, January, February, March of 2026 is a doozy of a ride. And this is why. So even though there's less astrology, what's being activated, the signatures of them, and the overlapping nature is exhausting. So as long as we know that now, we're not in it now. We're still trying to recover from January, but we don't really have that much time to recover and totally get back to our baseline from January, because all of a sudden, all of the energy is just getting moved into these other areas, mostly Pisces, and then Aries. But then we have this Aquarius piece. Those are all signs right in a row. Aquarius, Pisces, then Aries. Those are back to back to back. So that little quadrant of your chart is getting hit with really intense energy. Name of my podcast is Synergy to Synastry. It's also linked in my bio. So if you click on that, you'll see a little player and you can click to it. And it's also on my website. On my website, I have a page specifically for the podcast. So you can listen to it on my website, but you can also go to anywhere you find podcasts. So if you listen on Apple, if you listen on Spotify, if you listen on iHeart, Amazon, literally it's been picked up by other random platforms that I've never heard of in my whole life. It's probably on there. So you can find it and listen to it. But yeah, you can access that from the link that I have. There's a lot going on. I always try to highlight the potential for growth, the opportunities that can arise from these transits, because it's very, very easy to fall into, oh no, this sounds like a lot. I'm already stressed, and you're telling me that this sounds like it's going to be a lot too. Sure, but we can be prepared. We can think ahead. That's what these classes are for. We can be ready and know what to expect, know what to do to mitigate by understanding our chart and by understanding the planets and the signs that are moving along just themselves inherently. My Mercury is at 28 degrees and my North Node is at 23 in Aquarius. So yeah, Whitney, you're having a lot of activations with all these transits. So having your natal Mercury at 28 degrees, yeah, like you're going to feel this. It could especially be impacting your dreams, your communication, just your mind, like fogginess. But you also could have a lot of information that comes in because this is North Node. So you could have some ahas or revelations of like, you know what? I've never thought about this in that way before. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a negative, but it is an activation straight to your brain, how you're thinking, speaking, processing, approximately 24-hour period. So it's just going to be a big blip, if you will, but the whole energy radiates. We're in an energy portal, but the actual eclipse is just like the one day. No, North Node's at 23 degrees. So yeah, that would be in the orb. So you're almost having a nodal return. So that will be picking it up as well. So your inherent purpose. So really the whole time that we're having the North Node transiting in Aquarius, it's going to really resonate for you because that's your chart. You are supposed to develop these Aquarian traits. I'm not supposed to, but I'm still going to be encouraged to learn and develop here. For you, it's going to really hit home because you are supposed to be working on this and it's going to be reaffirming that. Like, you got to learn this. So I'm guessing based on that, normally if you have a nodal return, it's like every like 35, 36 or something years. So these are big events that you're going to be thinking about, like, whoa, I need to get in alignment, major alignment, moving towards my purpose, my calling, moving towards these traits and away from the Leo traits. Shedding that. I have 8th house, just for a whole sign. Which is always interesting parallel because when you have a North Node, which is pursuing something, but then you're talking about the 8th house, which is death and rebirth, like you have an inherent sense of destruction to then rise from the ashes on the other side of it. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. 10th house means major beginnings and endings as relates to career reputation. That beginning and ending happening either in the day, the month, the 6 months, or the full cycle could be completely changing your reputation, completely shedding your reputation, getting a whole new job, moving into a whole new industry, deciding to retire. Like, those are all things that could pop up. Major beginnings, major endings. These are milestones. Like, going back to the 3rd house as an example, it could be fundamentally changing your location, your locale, your connection to community, how you communicate, relationship with siblings, things like that. So these are milestones. That's how we want to think about beginnings and endings. It's a significant marker in time, and it can happen at any point, anywhere in this series. It won't necessarily be on the eclipse day. So that's why if you at least know what the placement means in your chart, in this case, 28 degrees of Aquarius, if you know what that means, then when it happens, you'll be able to recognize and go, so that was that. And otherwise, you just have the steady, long process of doing the learning and unlearning. One that I've been talking about for the Virgo Pisces series is that we are shedding perfectionism. We are having to release control. That's not like a thing that happens overnight. But you may have beginnings and endings, beginnings, mostly endings, popping up where it's like, this has to go, this has to go. So then you are having to repeatedly learn how to shed and release. So that's kind of how we want to think about it, is it can be a lot of things that are happening that are on brand, they're on theme with the house, with the sign, and with the node that we're talking about, whether it's North Node in this case, moving towards, or South Node moving away from, releasing. So hopefully that is helpful. Eclipses are always a fascinating time, and again, can be exhausting. You may go through an eclipse season and you feel nothing. You don't even notice anything. And that may be because of your specific chart. That may be because you are actually in alignment. You don't need a major beginning. You don't need a major ending. You kind of did it already. Wow, crushed it. And it also could be because the big beginning and ending is not happening on the day or in the month, but it's happening within the series. And so you aren't associating it with that time, which is why we want to look at the archetypes, and then we can match it and go, oh, well, it slid very cleanly in. I had a bunch of these different changes and they were in that year and a half when the North Node was in that sign or was in that sign.